Okay, good morning, everybody. Great to see everyone and great to be learning together. I'm going to mute everyone, but obviously if you want to unmute yourself, just go ahead and do that. Before I start, I just want to announce, make sure everybody knows, I think everybody knows, but we have a really incredible Israel trip that is ready to go for the beginning of May. And I would encourage, if you're even thinking about it, contemplating it, reach out to me. We can talk about it because it's really going to be a great trip. And also, if you might know of people that might be interested, possibly in an Israel trip, it's going to be 10 days with an option of extending for a second Shabbos. Really great stuff. So let me know. Okay. So we're going to continue now with the Ramchal, and I just want to do a tiny bit of review of a concept, a fundamental concept that we have been dealing with. So just the basic review is the idea that there are two distinct periods of time or experiences in the life of a human being, and one of those is a period of preparation. Okay, the word in Hebrew for preparation is hachana. Preparation, we are getting ready for something, we're preparing for something, and as you may have guessed, that period of time is olam hazeh, this world. Okay, then there's a second distinct period of time or experience, and that is the period of menucha, of rest or enjoyment or pleasure or the goal, let's say, and that is olam haba, the world to come. Now, to use the analogy that the Ramchal has been using throughout this entire book, he's been using the analogy of war, and he said that this world, our existence in this world, is nothing short of a war, a constant ongoing battle between our spiritual selves and our physical selves, between the needs of our bodies and the needs of our souls. And that war just keeps going on. And that war does not end until each and every one of us breathes our last breath on this earth. That's when the war ends. Not until then, not a moment before that. Now, I just was thinking about this. There's a very famous line that we've all heard from Isaiah. And the line is describing the world to come experience, describing the end of days when Mashiach will be here. It says, and the wolf will lie with the lamb. It's a familiar passage. That's the description that Isaiah uses to talk about what it's going to be like, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like in the end of days. There's a great restaurant in Manhattan, kosher restaurant called The Wolf and the Lamb. If you're ever there, make sure you get a chance to eat there. Okay, so the wolf, you've been there? Yeah, Howard, you were there? Brenda? Okay, so it's really good food. So the wolf and the lamb. So what's the analogy? What's the parable or the sort of the image of the wolf and the lamb? And I was thinking about this. Obviously, on one level, it means that for somehow when Mashiach comes, when we reach that period of time of Mashiach, so there's going to be no more war, right? With like the famous Isaiah wall on the UN building, there'll be no more war. We'll beat our swords into plowshares. And the wolf and the lamb, two enemies. The wolf is normally attacking the lamb, seeking the lamb, trying to devour the lamb. They will lie together in peace. The whole world will be in a state of peace. But another possibly deeper way of understanding this is that understanding that the wolf and the lamb are the body and the soul. The wolf is the body, right? The wolf is the aggressive, physical, aggressive animal. And the lamb is the pure, simple, passive animal. And ultimately, in the end of days, the wolf and the lamb will lie together, meaning the body and the soul will no longer be at war with one another. the body and the soul, the war will end, and the body and the soul will be able to be in a peaceful state with one another. And that happens in Olam Haba. The wolf and the lamb will lie together. Might be an allegory, or might be a parable for the body and the soul being able to finally lie together in peace. Okay, so we were talking about this idea of the two distinct periods of time. And just to review another term, another set of terms that we were using, that we've been using for the last week or two, is emtsa'i and tachlit. Let me explain what those two words mean. So emtsa'i is a vehicle towards something. It's a means to an end. It's a way to achieve or accomplish a desired goal. The goal, the purpose, the goal is the tachlit. That's the end game. That's what you're striving toward. So let's say, for example, if a person is trying to, make a living so that they can feed their family. So the tachlit is being able to feed my family. That's the purpose. That's the goal. That's the end game. The emtsa'i is my job, my salary, the paycheck that I'm going to get at the end of the month. That's the emtsa'i. That's the means to the end. And the end is the purpose. The goal is being able to put food on the table. That's the tachlit. So those two words are really describing Olam Hazeh, this world, and Olam Haba, the world to come. This world, Olam Hazeh, is the emtsa'i to the tachlit, to the goal, to the purpose, to the end game of Olam Haba, the world to come. Okay, so is there anything that needs explanation with that, or is that clear to everybody? Because that's something that we just need to kind of be very sort of fluent in, that idea, to be able to understand what the Ramchal is getting at over here. So he says on page 32, just reviewing a little bit, he said that there are many statements in the words of the sages which compare this world to a place and time of preparation, and the world to come as the place of rest from labor and the place of enjoyment of that, of what was already prepared in the world to come. Okay, and the first example that he gives is the one that we've quoted many times already from Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of Our Fathers, which is the famous statement that this world is similar to a vestibule, to a hallway before the world to come. We prepare ourselves in the vestibule to be able to enter into the banquet hall. And then the next one is the statement in the Talmud tractate Eruvin, which says today, and today means this life, this world, Olam Hazeh, our existence here in this world, is the time to do them. What's them? The mitzvos, the things that I'm able to do to acquire my existence and to finance my experience in the world to come. And tomorrow in the world to come is the time to receive the reward for the fulfillment of them. So we do mitzvos here. We don't get rewarded for the mitzvahs that we do here. The time and place for the reward for the mitzvos is the world to come. Okay. Now, that can get a little bit misunderstood as well. This is not a game. This is not like a, oh God, I forgot the name, Nickel City. Okay. This is not a Nickel City situation over here where you go, everyone, I'm sure you all know what Nickel City is. It's that godforsaken place that children make their parents take them when they're little. And it's unbelievable. You spend $50 on getting all these tickets so that they can get something at the counter that they would have bought at Walmart for $3, it's a crazy place. So, but you get these tickets, you play skee ball or you do these different games and you get these tickets, and then you can take the tickets and bring them to the counter and exchange them for a Laffy Taffy or something like that, right? So that's not what we're talking about in Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba. That's not how it works. The way it works is you are, through the performance of the mitzvahs, through the doing of the mitzvahs, you're developing, you're creating, you're nurturing a relationship between your soul and Hashem. And the place that you experience that relationship in an unlimited way is in the world to come. So you're creating your own experience for eternity in this world. And finally, the one which I love so much, which we were kind of left off on last week, and is where I want to pick up, is it says here, Misha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos, Yochel B'Shabbos. Whoever toils on Erev Shabbos, on the days leading up to Shabbos, let's say Thursday or earlier, Wednesday, Tuesday, whoever prepares and toils in the preparation of Shabbos, you made your cholent, you made your herring, you turned off the light in your fridge, you set the air conditioner or the heat or whatever, how you want it, you set everything up, right? So that person is going to enjoy Shabbos. But if you didn't, if you got too busy and you didn't put up the cholent in the crock pot, or you forgot to turn the air conditioning on, or whatever it is, so that person's not going to enjoy what to enjoy on Shabbos. So that is the ultimate metaphor for the Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba dichotomy. Olam Hazeh, this world is like Erev Shabbos, it's pre-Shabbos. You can prepare as much as you want. You can make as much food as you want. You can make challah, you can make cholent, you can make kishki, you can make whatever you want. There's a great restaurant, like a great Shabbos takeout place here that we discovered, and it has the best name ever. The name of this Shabbos takeout place is called Schmaltz. That's it. It's just called Schmaltz. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And they have just everything that they have there is greasy, geschmack, delicious Shabbos food. So, you can go to Schmaltz on Friday and pick up some whatever food that you want, some Yerushalmi kugel or whatever. But if you don't, then comes Friday afternoon when it's time to light candles and you didn't prepare, so you don't have. That's Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. In this world, you can prepare as much as you want. You can do as many mitzvahs as you want. You can keep going. You can try harder. You can develop the relationship harder. You can learn more Torah. You can do more acts of kindness. You can do more. You can daven more. You can do more mitzvahs, whatever it is. But then there comes a time when the siren goes off, like it does in Jerusalem on Friday afternoon, and that's it. Now it's Shabbos. And now for eternity, you will experience and enjoy whatever it is that you set up for yourself before Shabbos. I just want to focus on one word over here. It says, Misha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos. Whoever toils on Erev Shabbos, on, let's say, Thursday or Friday, whatever. Why doesn't it say over here, whoever makes food on Friday? Okay, I'm getting the feeling that my father and Steve Andrews are sending private messages to each other on the chat. Am I right by any chance? When you're teaching and all of a sudden you see two people on the screen laughing at the same time, they're sending back messages.
Yeah.
Did I catch you on that?
Yeah, it was his fault, not mine.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Okay.
I'm outing him.
Busted. Okay, you got to learn how to send messages to each other without laughing.
I don't know how to send messages.
Okay, fine. So why doesn't it say here, whoever made something before Shabbos, or whoever bought something before Shabbos? Why does it use the word toiled? Whoever toiled. Why is the word toiled a more perfect and precise way to describe this analogy of the this world, next world dichotomy? Why is that so absolutely perfect? Why is that the correct word, as opposed to someone who made stuff for Shabbos or bought stuff for Shabbos?
Can I read myself?
All right, well, somebody else. Who else?
I would say it's because the harder you work, the better the reward.
Okay, excellent. Jeffrey, what were you going to add? And Bonnie?
I'm saying that it's an effort thing. Some people may have more money, may have more creativity, but whoever, tries with whoever exploits their own means to their greatest extent is toiling. It's an effort. You got to think about it. You got to plan. You got to work. you gotta be creative. Not everybody's got enough money to go to Schmaltz and, just order whatever, and that's the end of it.
That's right. Excellent. Bonnie, what do you want to add to that?
I was just going to say additional intent and focus, which is basically what he just said.
Okay, great. So you're all right. You're all on the right path over there. And I just, in the end of the day, it's so precise and perfect. The way that the rabbis of the Talmud make this analogy by saying, whoever toils on Friday, whoever Tarach works hard on Friday, on Erev Shabbos, will have what to eat on Shabbos, because ultimately, like you're all saying, the reward, or what we experience in Olam Haba, has much more to do with the toil and the effort to build the relationship than our actual success in the performance or carrying out of the mitzvahs. So I'll give you a really interesting example. There's a custom that when you complete a section of, let's say, the Talmud or the Mishnah or any major section of learning, that you celebrate. And the way you celebrate is you make what's called a siyum. A siyum is like the completion of a, let's say, tractate of the Talmud. You could have maybe spent a year learning this particular tractate of the Talmud, and now you've completed it and you want to celebrate, and you bring friends together and you make a siyum. Okay. And when you make the siyum, there's this there's a formula, there's a script that you read. And in that script, it says, one of the things it says, Anu amelin v'hem amelin. Anu amelin v'kabim sachar, v'hem amelin v'ein v'kabim sachar. And the translation of that is, we're expressing our gratitude to Hashem for allowing our lot to be in the realm of Torah learning. And we say, we toil and they toil. Meaning we, those who are learning Torah, we toil in our learning of Torah, and they toil. They meaning everybody else. Let's say, people that are not learning Torah, or people that are, working or whatever. Okay. But then it says, we toil and receive reward. They toil and don't receive reward. So what does this mean? So the Chafetz Chaim asked this question. What do you mean? Like, people don't get reward, in outside of the Torah world. They don't get reward for what they're doing. There's no, if you're working, he gives an example of a shoemaker. And he says, what do you mean? That the shoemaker doesn't get compensated for the shoes that he manufactures or produces? Of course he does. He makes shoes, he sells them, he gets money. So he's getting compensation. We get compensation for our toil, and they don't get compensation for their toil. What do you mean? If you're in business and you get compensated for what you're doing at your work, for your accomplishments. So the Chafetz Chaim says, no, look carefully at the wording over here. For the toil, just the toil, they don't get compensated. And he gives an example. He gives a parable. He says, if there's a shoemaker and he's hired to make a very, very expensive pair of shoes, and he works and he toils and he toils and he toils for days and days, weeks, to make this pair of shoes. And right before he finishes, his hand slips with his knife and he gouges the leather in these shoes and ruins them. When the guy comes up to pick up his shoes, how much is he going to get paid for those shoes?
Zero.
Ephes, bupkis, klum, nothing, zero, right? Because in the world outside of Torah and mitzvos, you get rewarded, you get compensated, but not for the toil, but rather for the product, for the production, for the accomplishment or the achievement. But when it comes to spiritual endeavors, Torah learning and mitzvos, the reward has nothing to do with whether or not you achieved or accomplished the goal. You don't get rewarded for learning Torah only if at the end you can take a test and you know it all and you've remembered it all. Even if you learn Torah and you toil in learning Torah to understand it, and at the end you fail to understand it, or you do understand it, but you forget it 3 minutes later and you don't remember it, you still get the reward for toiling. You try to do a mitzvah, you get in the car to go help somebody, and you get a flat tire and you can't do it. you still get reward for the mitzvah because you toiled to do the mitzvah. You failed to accomplish the mitzvah. But when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs and spiritual endeavors and activities, the reward is for the toil and the effort and the input, not for the results or the achievement or accomplishment. So that's why the Ramchal is very specific over here. And about the Talmud, he's quoting the Talmud. It says, whoever toils on Friday, whoever works hard to achieve and accomplish an experience of the world to come for themselves, they're the ones who enjoy it. Okay, fine. So let's go on.
David,
Yes.
can I have a question? What if there was, let's say that the Torah was agnostic about the world to come, just didn't even go there? Would the whole system break down? Because the emphasis is on mitzvahs in this world, right? I mean, if in the next world there are no mitzvahs, this is your opportunity to help Hashem repair the world, to be a co-creator. So let's say that it just did not say anything about the world to come. Would Judaism break down, or we'd all just be doing the best that we can in this world? Like in Reform Judaism, as I recall, the world to come was a black box.
Okay, so that's a good question. I think the Ramchal himself is going to answer that question, because in a minute, he's going to move on and he's going to explain with logic why it has to be logically that there is a world to come.
Okay.
So we'll see how he's going to show that and demonstrate that. But before he gives one last,
it's Malka. I want to build on what Jeffrey said. When we talk about observant Jews, we talk about their behavior, not their belief as much. I mean, we say that someone's Shomer Shabbos. We don't say necessarily that they're Yirah Hashem, right or wrong?
right? That's right. I mean, we do say, you do describe somebody as a Yirat Shamayim, right? As a God-fearing Jew, right? That is something that is correct and common to hear. So, but I think both are emphasized. But you're right. I mean, in the end of the day, it's what we do that matters more than what we think or feel or believe. So, I think that's a good point also. Yeah. So the Ramchal is going to give one more statement, one more parable that the rabbis of the Medrash use. In this case, it's a Medrash, to again set up this sort of this dichotomy of this world being the world of preparation, the emtsa'i, the means to the end, and the world to come as being the tachlit, the goal, the purpose, the end game. You could ask this question. I don't want to do this analysis now, but it might be an interesting homework assignment to analyze the different examples that he's given over here. This world is like a vestibule before the banquet hall, or this world is the time to do, next world is the time to receive reward. This world is preparing for Shabbos, next world is enjoying Shabbos. And then this final one that we're going to give, you can compare and contrast and see what the nuanced differences are, but we're not going to do that analysis here. But let me just tell you what the final analogy is that he gives. And that is that this world is analogous to dry land, while the world to come is analogous to the sea. If one does not prepare on dry land, what will he eat at sea? And there are many other statements that the sages made along this line, meaning if you're going on a sea voyage, so you better make sure that before you leave, you have packed your bags and put food in there, and that you have plenty of, food and water and what's going to sustain you while you're on this journey. And if you do, wonderful, you'll have what to eat and you'll have what to drink while you're on the sea journey. And if you don't, you're gonna starve. Okay, so this world, it's the same idea. This world is preparation. This world is when you get things done, when you prepare things and you make things happen. And the next world is when you are able to experience and enjoy that which you've been preparing for. Okay. All right. Now, let's move on to a new topic. Slightly new chapter. And this I think is really, really quite fascinating. But let me give you a little bit of background here. What the Ramchal is going to do now is he's going to take a turn. Until now, until this moment, he has been bringing, let's say, proof or support or backing up his claim of there being a this world, next world, preparation and end game dichotomy. He's been proving that, demonstrating that through the statements, the words, the comments, and parables of the rabbis in the Talmud and the Mishnah. That's what he's been doing until now. But what he's going to do now at this point is he's going to apply logic. And he's going to bring two logical arguments that are going to further support this idea that logically speaking, it has to be that this world that we're in right now is not the final stage of existence, that it's not the end game. He's going to bring two different ways of proving that, or logically arguing that it can't be that this world, Olam Hazeh, is the final stage. Okay. But before we look at that, I want to just give a little bit of a background over here, which I think is really, really interesting. You know, in Judaism, we have something called Masorah, which is tradition. Okay. And we have something called logic. So we try to use both. We do use both. In fact, in the Amidah, in the first bracha, the first blessing of the Shmona Esrei, we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu. Right, blessed are you, our God and the God of our forefathers. Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Right, so why do we say our God? What's the difference between Elokeinu? We've talked about this before. Our God, and the God of our forefathers. So I believe what this means is that there are two ways that we can know God exists. And they're both critical. We need both of them. One of them is through my own logic, through my own thought, through my own mind, through my own investigation. Studying logic, studying logical constructs and proofs that demonstrate that God has to exist, the first cause proof, the teleological proof, or looking at history, or looking at what am I saying? What am I trying to say? Archaeology, thank you. Or all the different ways of logically, historically proving that God exists, or creating categories of evidence for the existence of God. That's called Elokeinu. That's my God. I arrive at a awareness of God's existence through my own intellectual endeavors, through my own investigation. And then the other way is Elokei Avoseinu, the God of my fathers. Tradition, Masorah. It's been passed down from parent to child, from teacher to student, for generation after generation after generation, that God took us out of Egypt and he revealed himself to us and gave us the 10 commandments at Mount Sinai, and all the things that we talk about on Passover, and all the things that we talk about all the time on Shabbos. That's called Masorah. That's called tradition. I'm sure I've told you this story probably a dozen times, but Rabbi Ben Zion Twersky once told us a story that he and Rabbi Kellerman. Rabbi Kellerman is a teacher. He lives here in Jerusalem. He teaches at a girls' seminary called Neve Yerushalayim. He's a very famous teacher, and he's written many, many books, logical evidence, arguments for the existence of God. One's called Permission to Believe, one's called Permission to Receive. Very, very famous and well known for his incredibly sharp, tight, logical arguments for the existence of God. So Reb Leib Kellerman and Reb Zion Twersky were once together at a Shabbaton. Who remembers this story? Okay. And at the Shabbaton, Reb Leib Kellerman spoke first, and he gave an hour lecture proving with logic and philosophy that there had to be a God who gave the Torah, communicated to the Torah to the Jewish people. Okay. Afterwards, Rabbi Ben Sion got up to speak. And I don't know what his topic was. He was probably talking about something, about Chassidut or spirituality or something like that. But before he spoke, somebody raised his hand and said, "Hey, wait 1 second, Rabbi. Rabbi Kellerman just told us how he knows that there's a God who gave us the Torah. How do you know?" So Rabbi Sion said, "I looked at that guy, that kid with a puzzled look on my face. And he said, how do I know? Because my father told me. And he wouldn't lie about that. And he knew because his father told him. My grandfather wouldn't have lied to my father. And my great-grandfather told my grandfather, and he would never have lied. So basically what he was saying is Masorah. Now, who's right? Who's wrong? They're both right. They're both right. They're both critical. Why are they both critical? They're both critical because if my entire awareness and understanding and commitment to Hashem comes only through logic and science and philosophy, and because science proves it or whatever, then when a new study comes out that shows that the universe is this old and not this old, or someone can make a new philosophical argument that disproves God or that supports Aristotle or whatever, then if my whole relationship and connection to Hashem is through my logic, well, guess what? There goes my relationship with Hashem. Okay. But on the other hand, if my whole relationship with Hashem simply comes from the fact that my parents told me that Hashem exists and gave the Jewish people the Torah and took us out of Egypt, then it's not mine. I don't own it. It's not, I have no personal connection to it. I just received it as a tradition. So I need both. I need Masorah and I need logic. Which one comes first? Which one's more important? Which one's the foundation? Correct. I want to read every Shabbos morning. It's a great moment, by the way. It's right when davening is over, and you can smell the cholent in the other room, and the herring is just like it's already. It's already out on the table. It's ready to go, and we sing Enke Elokeinu, Enke Adonenu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshienu. Right? What do we say? And then we say Enke Eloheinu, Enke Adonenu. What does this mean? So if you look at the Siddur, it says, there is none like our God. There is none like our master. There is none like our king. There is none like Hashem. And then it says, who is there like our God? Who is there like our master? Who is there like our king? Who is there like Hashem? What do you mean, who is there? You just said there's no one. You say there's no one like Hashem. There's no one like our king. There's no one like our master. And then you ask, is there anyone like our king? Is there anyone like our master? I think we got the order wrong here. And the answer is no, the order is exactly right. Of course, you have to ask in life, who is there like Hashem? Maybe there's another power out there. Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's another form of deity. I have to ask that. I have to investigate. I have to look into the possibility of there being other options. But I only look into it after I already know and have committed to the concept of there is no other like God. There is no other master like Hashem. There's none other than our king. Once I know that and it's clear and it's in my kishkas and I believe it and it's part of me, now I can go and investigate and look into it and try to understand it a little bit deeper. So I need the Masorah there first. The Masorah teaches me and informs me and builds my emunah. And once I have my emunah and it's strong, now I can go and make an investigation, which is exactly what the Ramchal is doing over here. He gave us 4 statements from the rabbis to bolster our emunah in the fact that there is a this world and then there's a next world. So we got it now. Then he says, okay, now, by the way, we can also logically argue it. But he doesn't even tackle the logical arguments until he's first given over the Masorah part of knowing that there's a this world and a next world. So now he goes, okay, now we're going to build the logical piece. And here he goes. Let's take a look. Having cited ample proof to his principle from words of the sages, Ramchal proceeds to show that it is even logically possible, it is not even logically possible to think otherwise. And here's his first, he gives two. You should truly realize that it is not even possible for anyone with intelligence to believe that the purpose of man's creation is for his situation in this world. For what is the life of a person worth in this world? Or who is genuinely happy and tranquil in this world? Why, as the verse states, the days or years among them are 70 years, and if with strength, 80 years. Their proudest success is but toil and pain. And our days are filled with so many types of pain, sickness, aches, and problems. And after all this comes death. Even one person in 1,000 will not be found who can say the world gave him abundant pleasures and true tranquility. And even he, that one in 1,000, should he live to reach the age of 100 years, as if he's already passed on and departed from this world. It is thus not possible to think that a man was created for the objective of enjoying this world. Let me explain all this, okay? Allow me to explain, and then we're going to stop and have some discussion. Okay, but what the Ramchal is basically saying over here is that a person with seichel, a person with intelligence, a person who is thinking things through logically, cannot possibly conclude that Hashem created this entire universe and everything in it just for human beings to enjoy a temporal enjoyment in Olam Hazeh, a temporary physical material enjoyment in this world. Rather, this world has to be an emtsa'i, a process, a means toward something else. Okay, so here's the question: why? Maybe Hashem created Olam Hazeh, this world, for man's temporal enjoyment. Maybe that's it. Maybe this is all we get. So why do we know that's not true? So here's the background of what's driving the Ramchal. The background is like this. What do we know about Hashem and why he created the world? The answer is very little. We don't know why Hashem created the world. We can't know Hashem in his essence, but there's a few things that we do know. We do know that Hashem is infinite, all-powerful, infinite, lacking nothing. And therefore, it cannot be that Hashem, who's lacking nothing, created a universe to fulfill some need or some lack on his part, because he has no needs or lacks. So therefore, Judaism says, why does Hashem create a universe? Well, the one thing we know about Hashem is that Hashem is Tov. He's good. And not only is he good, but he's the ultimate good. Okay? And the nature of good is that good bestows goodness. The one thing we can say about Hashem is, by definition, the fact that he's Tov, the fact that he's good, means that he is Meitiv. He bestows goodness. And there's one thing that's missing from existence before Hashem creates. There's one thing that's missing before Hashem creates existence, and that is that there is nothing outside of Hashem for him to bestow his goodness upon. And therefore, Hashem creates the universe so that he has something finite outside of himself to bestow his goodness upon. Okay, and therefore it follows that if Hashem created the world to bestow his good, then the world has to be an awesome and enjoyable place, right? If the whole reason why Hashem created existence is to bestow goodness, then this world has to be a place filled with awesomeness. Okay, but when you look at Olam Hazeh, when you look at this world, it kind of sucks. Sorry, pardon the expression, but it's pretty rotten for many, or better yet, most people throughout the history of humanity. This world has not been all that awesome, right? Think about the millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people that live in third world countries, where their most basic needs are lacking. And even in the first world, we have illness, we have poverty, we have tragedy, we have loss, we have physical illness, we have mental illness, we have challenges with our families, we have all kinds of pain and suffering. And even for that few, that charmed, lucky few, that 1 in a million who happens to live that perfect charmed life where they somehow miraculously seem to escape, all the pain and suffering that most people in the world go through, in the end of the day, they die after 70 years, 80 years, 100 years. And that's it. So if this world, if Olam Hazeh is it, if this is all the infinite good can produce, then if this is his A game, right? This is the best he's got, then it's pretty pathetic. So logic dictates that it can't possibly be that this is all we get. Because if Hashem's purpose for creating the world is, as Judaism teaches that it is, to bestow goodness, then this can't possibly be the goodness that he's bestowing. He failed miserably, right? How can this world of suffering, pain, misery, poverty, illness, short-lived existence possibly be what the infinite good, the best that the infinite good can produce? But if Olam Hazeh is sorry, I didn't mean to say that. If this is all we get, right? Okay, yeah, fine. But so what's the logical argument? The logical argument has to be, therefore, that Olam Hazeh, this world, is not the end. Rather, it's what? It's an emtza'i, it's a means to an end. Okay? So if Olam Hazeh is not the tachlis, if it's not the purpose, but it's rather a means to an end, and there's a different stage that follows, that is the purpose, that is the goal, namely Olam Haba, then it makes perfect sense. The bestowment of infinite good, which is the only possible reason that Hashem could have created the world for in the first place, has to be taking place somewhere else, because it's certainly not happening here. Okay, so where is that somewhere else? What is that somewhere else? That somewhere else is Olam Haba. And if the Olam Hazeh is the tachlis, then if Olam Hazeh is the goal, then the purpose for Hashem's creating the world, the ultimate, as being the ultimate place of bestowment of goodness, is a miserable failure. But if Olam Hazeh is just the way to get there, then we understand perfectly well why people don't experience necessarily pure and great pleasure all the time in Olam Hazeh, because they have to go through things. There have to be experiences to get a person to Olam Haba. And also, we also can understand why people die after 70, 80, 100 years. If Olam Hazeh is it, if this is the ultimate place of bestowing goodness, then why do we leave? Why do we leave? We should just stay here. But if the ultimate place of bestowing goodness is somewhere else, then it makes perfect sense while we're here, why we are here for a while to earn, and then we leave, and then we're taken away, and we're brought somewhere else, Olam Haba, to experience the purpose of this whole experience, which is being in Olam Haba and enjoying the relationship that we created. Okay, so if Olam Hazeh is the end game, then why is it so bad? Why do we suffer so much? And why don't we stay here for longer? So that is the first logical argument that he makes. Okay. Does anyone want to add to that, discuss it, consider it, comment on it? Or do you want to see the second argument and then stop there? Okay, let's see the second argument. This is also
David, I think you can go from logic first to tradition, because logic it's not a rich contextual thing. So you could start with Immanuel Kant. So Kant says there's no way to know anything about God, because God or that cause and effect may not apply to the next world or anything outside of our own world. Therefore, therefore, there doesn't have to be a God. So what he comes up with is a categorical imperative, which is basically the golden rule. And but he's got no teeth behind it. So if you study that, and then you realize this is it's not enough to really want to sacrifice and put someone beyond you, because it's all like words. So then you get into Judaism and you realize that it makes a lot more sense. And logically, it makes more sense that we should toil in this world and suffer if there's a next world. But to me, that's very much a emotional decision, or something that you do through your heart, not necessarily through your mind. That's what faith is. What kind of world you want to live in?
So that's why we have both. That's why we have logic and Masorah, right? That's why we need both, because they're both part of building the full picture, the full understanding. So that
Right.
is very important.
However, there's also, if it's just philosophical, you ever hear of Pascal's wager, where
Yes, but one second. But I want. Here's what I want to do. I want to finish the next proof, and then anyone who wants to stay on, we can stay on and
Okay.
keep going. But I want to make sure to get to the next piece of argument over here. Okay, and that is like this. The second logical argument is not only that, but if the purpose of man's creation was for the sake of his situation in this world, meaning if the whole reason why Hashem created us and created the universe and everything was just for Olam Hazeh, just for this world, then there would have been no need for such a distinguished and elevated soul to have been blown into him. A soul that would be greater than even the angels. Certainly it finds no contentment in all the pleasures of this world. So let me explain what he means over here. That is that we have it, we know we have a neshama, right? We have a soul. And what is a soul? A soul is a chelek elokah mimal. It's a piece of godliness that God gave from himself. Remember the glass blower analogy? That when the glass blower blows into the glass, he's giving from his breath into the form of the glass. That's the analogy that Kabbalah uses to describe how Hashem breathes into man the soul of life. So he invests within us, he breathes into us a piece of himself. A chelek elokah mimala is a spark of godliness inside of us. But the question is, here's the argument. If Olam Hazeh is not, if this world is not a means to an end, but rather it is the goal, the end, the purpose of everything in the end of the day, then, right, if the physical, material, short-lived world is the end game, then, and only thing that we're here to do, and the only pleasure that we're, trying to seek over here is a good steak, or a nice vacation, or sexual pleasures, or all whatever the physical pleasures are that a person can experience in life. If that's it, then why on earth did Hashem need to place a piece of himself in us? Why did he need to put a spark of godliness inside of us? Especially when you think about it, that if it's all about the rib steak and the vacation and the sex and the rock and roll and whatever, right? Then the neshama just gets in the way of all that. It just gets in the way, right? If the neshama, because the neshama inside me makes me feel guilty when I indulge in bodily pleasures. It makes me feel unproductive when I'm sitting on the couch watching old reruns of Laverne and Shirley, or whatever. It makes me feel anxiety when I'm living selfishly and I'm only, feeding myself and taking care of myself. That's what the neshama is going to do. So if the whole purpose of Olam Hazeh is pleasure, physical pleasure, material pleasure in this world, then not only does it not make sense to give me a neshama, but it gets in the way. It makes it much worse. If the end game, if the tachlis is material, physical pleasures in this world, then Hashem did us a huge disservice by giving us a neshama. Okay? Without a neshama, without a pure and holy spark of godliness inside of me, then I could really enjoy this world. Then I could really enjoy the pleasures of this world. I can eat whatever I want and not feel bad. I can sleep with whoever I want and not feel guilty, right? I would feel great. I could do, think, say whatever I want, guilt-free. Conscience, guilt, restraint, all of these things only come about because I have a neshama inside of me. So if the purpose of Olam Hazeh, if the purpose of God's creation is Olam Hazeh, then Hashem would have been much smarter not to have given us a neshama, because now I can't really enjoy any of these pleasures at all without, feeling bad that I'm not spending more time feeding my soul or nurturing my spiritual side. Okay, so that is the argument over here. But if Olam Hazeh, if this world is an emtsa'i, it's a means to an end, it's the place to do work and to struggle and to overcome challenge in order to earn our relationship with Hashem. And then we move on to Olam Haba, which is the tachlis, which is the end game, which is the purpose that we are created for. Then it makes perfect sense why I have a neshama in my body, because I need the struggle, I need the battle, I need the challenges to overcome. Okay, so that's the second part of the argument, which we'll focus a little bit more on next week. That the logical argument that the Ramchal makes, that if Olam Hazeh is it, if this is what you see is what you get, there's two problems. One, it kind of stinks here, right? This is the best Hashem can do. This is his A game. This is all he's got. A short-lived life that for the most part is guaranteed to have included in it suffering, misery, loss, tragedy, illness, poverty, and all kinds of other terrible things that almost every single human being that's ever lived or walked on this earth has experienced. That's all he has. If this is the end game, come on. And second of all, if this is the end game, why give me a neshama? It just gets in the way. Why invest a piece of godliness, a spark of Hashem himself inside of me, if all I'm supposed to do here is enjoy physical pleasures? But if this world is a means to an end, if it's a bridge to the world to come, then it all makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense why I have a neshama. It makes perfect sense why I have to be here and struggle and go through difficulties and challenges in order to experience Olam Haba for eternity. So that's the Ramchal's logical argument that he makes now to back up his quoting of statements from the rabbis about the existence of the world to come. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. I'm going to stop the recording.